Hello and welcome back to Shutterdrives. This is peak summer in India, but it is raining EVs, and MG Motors do not want to be left behind in this affordable EV space, and that's why they have dropped this Comet from the sky, this tiny quirky looking car. Stay tuned for this review where we talk about the 20 things you absolutely should know about this car, and then you decide if you want to buy this car or give it a miss. So generally we start off with the variant list of any car, but we do not have any clarity on the variants of this particular car. But you can customize this in 6 different ways. Just you have emojis, you have doodles, graffitis and whatnot, and I think that is going to be loved by the Gen Zs. So as soon as you look at this car, the first thing that you realize here is the DRL is taking the center stage with the charging port here with the MG logo there. But what's very much appreciable for MG is they haven't done any bit of cost cutting, at least what is visible, because you get 2 wipers unlike Nano, and you also get 2 washers here. The windscreen is large and it occupies a lot of real estate. You have couple of LED headlamps, and there is this particular grille which is placed quite far down below in the car. Overall, I think it has the proper boxy, tiny appearance, which, like I said before, might be liked by some and be hated by some. So this is the key fob of the car, and this is the coolest key fob I've ever seen. Thoda light hai, but looks like it's heavily inspired from AirTag. MG being MG has actually plugged a lot of features in this car. In fact, even the logo is illuminated, because रात को नहीं तो पता चलेगा ना कि मतलब MG चला रहा है या Ferrari. So this is how you access the charging port of the MG Comet, and MG says that in around 70 to 8 hours you can charge this car overnight for a full charge, and the claimed range is approximately 220-230 kilometers. Realistically, you can expect 150-160ish. Again, that's something that we'll get to know only when you do a proper range test of this car. So not exactly a bonnet, but if you open this, it's so tiny. This is the shortest bonnet I've seen in my entire lifetime. Talking about the tire size, it's 145/70 R12. Yes, you get 12 inches of wheels in this car. Wheel caps, no alloys, and the smaller size of the wheel is quite evident, and in fact even the bumps are clearly translated inside to the driver and the passengers there. Again, one of the factors is the smaller wheels here. And then you have the turn indicators on the mirror here. MG being MG hasn't compromised on that. In fact, they've actually given request sensors on both the doors. You can just press the request sensor and enter this car, which is very, very astonishing. Talking about the entry and exit, the only way how you can lock the car is come out of the car and press the lock button, and it's only then everything inside shuts off, because there's no start stop button in this car. This will be liked by some people, but some people might find it कि मतलब इतना झंझट क्यों है एक गाड़ी ऑफ करने के लिए. And then talking about the rear glass, there's a long glass which is elongated. Andar wale will not feel claustrophobic because of the length of the glass, but it's not openable. In fact, there's no door at all because this is a 3-door car. So rear overhang is very, very short. As you can see here, there's barely any space. Overall, this is a very, very tiny cumbersome car. Some people might find that, even if I'm paying $1 million of rupees, this is something that could have been slightly bigger in size. So talking about the rear design, I think this is something that is actually slightly more polarizing than the front design. You have the Comet badging, which takes the center stage here with the long connected tail lamp, which is of course the fashion these days. This is the dual tone white and black color. You get few other color options which you can see here, and then you have LED tail lamps with the EV badging here. Surprisingly, you get a couple of parking sensors which would help you, and there's a reverse camera, the clarity of which is quite decent for the propositions of this particular car. But if there is one thing that I actually have a problem with, is this, the internet inside badging. When we had the MG Hector drives long back in Kunur, when actually MG came to India, this was one of the feedback that was given by a lot of people, that this badge is slightly unnecessary, it's diluting the premiumness of the car. But MG actually did not listen to it. We saw the badge in a couple of more cars, and I really did not expect that badging to be here in this small Comet as well. And going slightly downwards, you have the reflectors which are vertical. Overall, it's a very, very rectangular design, not even boxy. It has a tall boyish Wagner like tall boyish design, which is super boxy. And let us know if you like the design or not. So talking about the ground clearance of the car, although we do not have the specs on paper, but I think that is just satisfactory enough. Matlab, I feel if you're going over larger bumps, there's a decent probability that the underbelly might get scraped. Again, this is just an assumption. Real world tests are reverted. You can actually stuff in these 2 bags in the boot of the MG Comet because the boot space is actually quite small. I'm actually thoda sa struggling. Okay, done. You can stuff in 2 bags, simple boot space of this car. But if you want to stuff in more things, thankfully MG has told that he can take care of you, don't worry about it. That's why you can fold the seats like that. Come here, take these 2 bags like this, put this here, put this here. You can store a lot of more things because once you fold the rear 2 seats, you get abundant space. The doors in the Comet are so wide that 2 or 3 people can enter simultaneously together. It's that wide. I think this is the second widest door I've seen, of course, after Altroz in the hatchback segment. And the cool part is there is no start stop button in this car. But how does the car start? So as soon as you enter with the key in your pocket now, सब कुछ यहाँ पे light हो जाता है. मतलब just like a Diwali, मतलब यहाँ पे there are 2 10.25 inch screens which we'll get into later. But everything just lightens up as soon as you enter the car because the car senses that you are entering with a key. So first thing is you realize that okay, the key was inspired by AirTags of Apple, and even the buttons on the steering wheel remind you of the iPod. And these buttons are heavily inspired from that. The steering feels lovely to hold. It is superb. And one thing that I must really appreciate here is MG has ensured that there is absolutely no cost cutting in the car. Matlab, I don't think we have seen such quality of materials even in cars which are costing a lot more. Not just this price, but I can tell you there's so many cars which are going to cost double this price, but unka quality is so damn diluted, and this is so soft touch everywhere, making you feel like you're sitting in a much expensive car. Yet again, I'm talking about just the quality of materials of the car and not the car overall as such. So the seat comfort is good, the headroom is generous, but the headrests are not adjustable. The underside support is quite average. Taller people like Mr. Faisal Khan will feel that there is no underside support in this car. And another cool bit is because start stop button, you will have to press the brake pedal twice for the car's ignition to turn on, and then it comes to the ready mode when you switch it to the drive mode here, and that's how you drive the car. And talking about the seating position in general, the seating position is actually good because you're seated thoda sa heighted itself. Matlab the seat is not lowered or something, you're seated pretty high itself. You won't complain there whatsoever. You can't see the bonnet like I said earlier, but the sitting position overall is good and will be liked by all kind of people. I'll tell this many times that the quality of this car, the materials used, the buttons, the stacks, the knobs is a good 9 on 10. 9 on 10 for a car costing $1 million is absolutely phenomenal. When you consider that the cars like Innova High Cross which are costing 40-50 lakh have very mediocre quality of plastics inside them. Very good job done by MG there. Thankfully you get electrically adjustable ORVM. Citroen should actually learn a thing or two from this, because you don't get ORVMs which are electrically adjustable in the C3, and that has been quite criticized by people. So you press this button and
I'm listening.
Turn on AC.
AC has been turned on.
You can talk to it like this for 100 more things, basically 100 commands including few English commands. मतलब English हिंदी को mix करके English बोलते हैं लोग. And then you have the switches for AC controls, again top notch quality there. ES mode ये है कि ये economy, normal और sport mode में आप switch कर सकते हो चलते चलते in this car. No auto dimming IRVM चाहिए भी नहीं है this price point, but the driver and co-driver of the Gen Zs will like this because यहाँ पे दोनों को mirror आता है. However, there is no lamp. That is something that might be missed by some people there. Now in case you decide that you want to come from here to here like this and here to here like this, don't worry, MG has taken care of that. I don't know why would someone want to do this, but if you want to do this, you can do this in the MG Comet. So again, MG being MG has tech loaded this car completely. You can actually play around with the widgets here जैसे हम लोग खेलते हैं बचपन में. You get 2 screens here, 10.25 inch each. The right screen gives you all the driver information, जैसे speed हुआ, the odometer, drive mode, कितना power consume हो रहा है and what not. Left screen is more about the infotainment here. I'll just get through the couple of interesting features here in this particular screen. If you go to the vehicle settings here, you can do a lot of things in terms of configuration. यहाँ पे you can actually set what should be the maximum speed of your vehicle. मतलब 50, right now it is set to 50, and there's something called neutral gear anti-touch. मतलब आप 100 की speed पर जा रहे हो and suddenly if you want to switch to neutral, you can't do that if you actually lock that here. And there's a different settings for the curve system, light, normal and heavy there. You can set it between driving modes here also. But what is slightly more interesting is you can change the wallpapers, and the responsiveness overall of this particular screen is very nice. So this is the reverse camera of the MG Comet. It's pretty average. आजकल कोई अच्छा कैमरा दे नहीं रहा from a long time, especially in the mass market cars, and this is fine, decent. You can see the cycle going there. I can't see if it's a boy or a girl, but ठीक है, मतलब चलता है, manageable है. So talking about the AC performance of the car, the performance of the AC is quite decent. Right now the blower level is around 4-5ish, and the temperature is set to the coldest possible. It's decent, but it's not 100% satisfactory as such. Matlab, I can still feel the warm air moving inside the cabin. It's not very chilling or something, but it also could be because of the fact that right now it's peak summers, the Delhi summers, especially at core afternoon. So this is kind of expected. बस ये है कि आपको गर्मी नहीं होगी इस गाड़ी में. So now talking about the charging options, you get 2 USB type charging here. I think कम से कम एक टाइप सी देना था, because Gen Z is now by iPhone and all, you need the type C charging point there. That is something that is not there. Quite interesting. Again, there are a lot of cubby holes मतलब बहुत ज़्यादा भी नहीं है. You can keep something here. You can keep your laptop here. You can keep a Chintu Mintu bottle here, and you can keep the AirTag inspired key here. There's a dedicated provision for this. No cup holders in the front, as you can actually keep your delicate phones here, because MG has provided a provision for that, which is actually pretty cool, dude. And then you have the manual handbrake in the car, but there is no center armrest. आपको हाथ किधर रखना है? You'll have to figure that out. Talking about one of the most critical things in the MG Comet is the rear space. Firstly, how do you get inside this car? You'll have to come here. Thankfully, MG has given you a one-touch option. Just press this and push the seat all the way forward. You will be greeted by this, and then come back and pull the seat up. So talking about the leg room of this car, it's pretty decent. इतना बुरा नहीं जितना मैं सोचा था, because I set my expectations slightly less. मतलब गाड़ी छोटी है, leg room छोटा होना चाहिए, कम होना चाहिए. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. मतलब it's still better than the third row space of Meridian. Way better than that. Not kidding at all. And the under-thigh support is something that might be थोड़ा सा scarce for tall people. Headroom is very good. It has a tall boy design there. Under-thigh support, like I mentioned, isn't that ambitious as such, but overall a decent place for kids. If you have 2 kids, they won't complain that okay, मेरे को जगह नहीं है, जगह बहुत कम है. And thanks to the larger glass area, you won't feel claustrophobic as well. But some people might find that the process of entering like this is slightly challenging. Thankfully, MG has offered seat belts. No charging, nothing, no rear AC vents, nothing. You get minimalistic seat belts here for the rear passengers. So first things first, in the MG Comet, you get a 17.3 kilowatt hour battery, and they say that the charging time from 0 to 100 is around 7 hours, and 10 to 80% is around 3.5 hours. But what's important is the range. Although the claimed range is 230 kilometers, you should get somewhere around 150 160 kilometers realistically, which is pretty decent considering the city runabouts. So talking about the key driving dynamics of this car, first thing is you do get a couple of modes. Yes, MG being MG has actually plugged in a couple of modes in this particular car. Just so you have Eco, you have Normal, you have Sport. And the reason we are actually doing this driving part in the center of city in a typical traffic is because this car is actually primarily made for that. In fact, you can actually set the region modes. There are 3 different region modes: light, medium and high, which is going to be pretty helpful in conserving that energy for that extra mile whenever you need it. So talking about the steering feedback, the steering is pretty light. Even in the sport mode, I'm driving in the sports mode right now, and it's pretty light. No solid feedback as such. So this is the horn of the MG Comet, and the horn is pretty loud and clear. No second thoughts there whatsoever. So talking about the braking, which is quite important in a car, you get disc brakes in the front and drum brakes at the rear of the Comet. But the concern is the braking isn't very good or something. It's just manageable, it's satisfactory. You'll have to plan and brake. It's not that you can do panic braking and get away with it. It's not like that. You'll have to plan thoda sa and only then brake.
Speaking of the ride quality, this is one area where the Comet has significant room for improvement. The car is riding on 12-inch tires, and potholes and bumps are actually felt inside, and they are quite evident. The suspension thud won't go unnoticed when the Comet meets potholes. Since the Comet is tailored for city purposes, a lot of prospective buyers will feel this pinch. Handling too is nothing to write about either. The tall boyish design with its typical characteristic trait make you nervous on high speeds and curves. Not that you would intend to do that with this car, but some maturity was certainly expected considering the dimensions of the car. Should you get ambitious and try to make some sudden maneuvers on the highway, the tall body design will let you to control your emotions.
So what do we have to say about the MG Comet? First things first, MG actually has planned in a lot of features in this car ताकि it attracts the buyers, the Gen Z, the new age buyers of digital India. And that is very evident because you can see that the quality is top notch, it is loaded with features, has a decent range. All these are the things which will favor MG, okay? Because MG is very tech savvy, they have good service centers, unlike some brands like Citroën, which should be a big proposition for MG. But I'll tell you a problem here. The problem is we Indians have a preconceived notion about smaller cars in India. Like I said earlier as well, we do not see very tiny cars like the Nano, say the Bajaj Qute, the quadricycle, or say cars like Ito and Reva as proper cars, because we associate pride and prestige with these cars, and I feel that this is where the weak spot of the MG Comet is. MG was probably right in their own way. They didn't want to have a big car to just commute within the city, an EV or something. But when you're talking about the buyer, if I have to convince my father as a Gen Z customer to actually go and spend over 10 lakh rupees on this car, it's difficult. And he would come back to me and say that why don't we buy a car like a Tiago EV or something that actually looks like a proper big car where I can take from point A to point B without any issues whatsoever. So there's going to be a war at home between the children and the elders. Children are going to absolutely love this car. I mean, there's no way anyone would have a problem with this car if he likes all these fancy features. But again, like I said earlier, the elders will feel that, you know, I can get a lot more for that 10 lakh rupees. So it's the time that is going to let us know, okay, if this car is going to sell well in India or not. But kudos to MG for actually taking a big brave move, and special thanks for not going the cost cutting way. That's about it. If you guys like the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and follow us on Instagram, because that's where a lot of action happens every single day.